Quiet the room down without having to say.
Yes, you guys answered.
Big brother. Thank you for coming, everybody. I'm Sean Atkins, I'm the town manager here for St. Paul. We're here with a couple of our team, although this is a third-party team, but this is Julie, she's a stormwater coordinator, some of you have met her before. And some of you have, and this is Jason Booth, who's with Alderson Elliott. He's a big part of the whole, in the whole, given the specific details about the actual project, whether answer them throughout the presentation or just, after the questions. So it's gonna be a pretty straightforward portion for terms of our side. I don't know if it's still doing HOA afterwards. But, for our stuff, I think you reserved a few, probably even longer than we need. It's a pretty straightforward project. Famous last word. But anyway, yeah. So this is where we're at. We're close to being ready for it. And,
Hi. So we're gonna talk about the Tanglewood and the new great wetland. And this is the agenda. So I want to talk about a little bit about overall the stormwater. Sorry. And the Tanglewood, the design plans, Jason's gonna talk about that. Then I want to talk about funding, the schedule, when it's gonna be, questions, if you guys ask questions, ask that. So to understand, this is not only Tanglewood problem, this is overall problem in all the area, on all these places. And I want to show you that, for example, all the water that came from the mountain and it came from channeling from the I-98, 98, sorry, and came to the Sash and then to Gracebrook and then crossed to the Sash and ended up in Tanglewood, all the water that happened the last year. All the yellow arrows is the problems also around the area we having. So this is showing that also the Sash has problems with the covers and has old covers, and V-Trans is gonna fix that in the next coming years. So that's the main problem, but we want to know solutions. And the solution is we want to keep that water not coming all the water to the Tanglewood because the new great wetland is not gonna have the capacity to carry all the water. So we're gonna do the west basin and the east basin and the north and in the what is showing. And this is now, sorry.
Come on. Here's Van.
So this is the intersection right here. This is exit 19 on 89. This is the Sash going west. This is Route 7, okay? Across from the complex, which is right here, is the west basin and east basin. They're both on the northerly side of the Sash, the St. Albans State Highway. Okay?
Yeah. Sorry, I don't have to. So all these projects is to keep it out that water and fix all the problems we have over there because through the years and bad development, no maintenance, no drainage well. So we want to start to fix all of that. The next couple of years with V-Trans and with these two committee projects, we want to channel all of that, plus the new wetland in Tanglewood. Also, we had another project in Clyde Allen from this year. We had another for Fairfax. We need to fix a big cover over there. Static, that is private, but they're gonna also do another stuff. So we had a lot of projects coming in this area in general. So this is good. This is a good solution for all of that area.
And if I might also give it like a little other backdrop, at least as
dare I call myself a flatlander? You know,
Mhm.
I'm not from Vermont. Julie
neither.
clearly is, but yeah, no.
Me neither.
But
You see. Sorry.
yeah. But so I would, coming from other places, I would actually say that Vermont is maybe even 2 decades behind on the topic of stormwater. So what I've seen in my year here is a lot of piecemeal stormwater stuff that's been done over the last 30 years. And basically what we're trying to do now is look at it holistically and say, all right, look, where's it coming from? So that's kind of, we're starting from square one, so at the hill, you know, so we're kind of going from there. You guys are the next point. I kind of call the Tanglewood, the Sash, kind of ground zero for our stormwater issues here. So we're doing it piece by piece, but I would not say piecemeal. It's a clear direction. We actually already have a grant to do the east-west basin.
Basin.
So when V-Trans is ready to do that project, which is slated for 2026, we're gonna have the design work done before then. So it won't add, knock on wood, extra time to that. So they'll be ready to do that. You know, we're all new to this, at least to this area, including Dave, who couldn't be here today, our DPW director. But we see the problem, and this is basically, again, square one. So we can't do it. We don't have it was gonna cost tens of millions of dollars to do everything over the course of many years. But you guys basically are kind of outside of, you know, the Sash, the first point of it. I think we have a lot of MS4 projects.
MS4.
So yes, there's many. We have to do them by 2036 per the state.
Little blue dots right here represents MS4 project, which is a multi-sector general permit. Okay, and that governs stormwater for larger communities and impaired watersheds, of which St. Albans is. I'm sorry,
Yes, MS4.
multi-sector general permit is what it essentially is. And so in 2017, for the Stevens and the Rug Group, there was a flow restoration plan completed, 2 separate ones for each brook. And that looked at these MS4 communities and really came up with the development of multiple projects where we could look at how to manage the stormwater in that area with the goals of water quality. So the initial essentially 1-inch rainfall for a storm is considered water quality. That's where a lot of the oils come off the road. You know, a lot of the debris, the pollutants come off the road in that first 1-inch storm. So capturing that water quality volume, but also channel protection, and being able to capture the larger peak flows from storms, from higher intensity rainstorms, capture that flow, manage that flow, and then slowly release that flow. So we're not having these heavy flood events. So a lot of these projects through the flow restoration plan were identified. This is where by 2036, you have these communities have to meet their flow restoration plan goals that were established, and building these practices is part of that implementation.
Yeah, and also that's really what comes down to with the stormwater permit, the fee, because we're not putting this, we're trying to at least lower the burden as much as possible. Because the projects, again, cost a lot of money. But for us, it can't all be done at once. But in order for us to do it consistently, you know, it's for us to have even match funding for grants is a big part of this. And we're not doing projects without grants. So thankfully we got one for this, we got one for Clyde Allen. Fingers crossed, we'll continue to get grants for future projects. So it's my least favorite word is stormwater. You want to count it as one word. But again, you guys are the first big project we're doing in at least certainly in my time in a few years. So here we are.
And now, well, as you see, we had a lot of projects and we want to move now to Tanglewood, and Jason's gonna explain about that.
So
I mean, here, this is the. Mm. Okay.
okay, so currently there's an existing gravel wetland in Tanglewood. This is Tanglewood over here. Potter is over here, correct? And then, Meadowbrook, right,
Mhm.
is right here. So this is the corner of Tanglewood. This is, there's an existing practice. You probably can't really see it. It's all grown up back there. A lot of higher tree shrubbery. This is sort of wetlandish right now. The idea with this project is to utilize that existing practice. It's the design and the requirements are a little bit different from when this was put in. What happens with this proposed practice, we bring flow into the practice from this side, right off Tanglewood, and we also bring flow in from the practice sort of cross lots between Tanglewood and Meadowbrook. So there's two entry points to the gravel wetland. And in order to be able to treat water quality volume, like I mentioned before, which would be that first flush, that one inch storm, we have a forebay here, which is sort of like a filtration basin almost. Flow comes in, it sits in that basin and then spills over into the larger portion of the gravel wetland. What a gravel wetland is basically a system where you can attenuate flow, but you can also treat flow. It's sort of a two-part system, and you'll see some details here in a second. Essentially, so flow comes into the forebay, spills over here to spillway, fills this gravel wetland area, this basin, and it will go down subsurface at this point, and it flows through underground or under the surface through a gravel layer to a collection point at the southern end of the practice, and then out to a discharge point. Currently, there's a 24, this is an existing discharge for the existing practice. There's an existing 24-inch storm drain that goes kind of diagonally, very close to the garage of, I don't remember if this is number 3 Meadowbrook, and across the road and into the Rug Brook.
That's fine.
I'm sorry? Yes, this right here across the road. So this is number 3. The practice is up above the screen right now. Yep. And go to the next one. We come all the way across. This is all existing through here, out, it discharges out into the Rug Brook. So if you go back one, Julie, so we're realigning this outfall to eliminate this 24-inch storm drain that goes close through the property and close to the garage. We're going to run a new storm drain on the property line between, I think that's number 1 and number 3,
Yeah.
and then goes down to Meadowbrook, comes across and ties into the existing storm drain that goes cross lots and out back to Rug Brook. If you go down a little bit, see the big detail. So hard to see if anybody wants to come a little closer and take a look, but this is a section of the gravel wetland. So this is the basin area where the water would be stored above the wetland plantings and the wetland basin, the bottom. The wetland we're dry, you would see this is the bottom, this elevation right here. Below that is about 3 feet of crushed stone, washed crushed stone. So the flow would enter at the north side of the basin. It goes down through piping and an entry point, and it goes into the gravel, and it flows horizontally to the outlet, and then it goes out through the pipe, and it's governed by an outlet orifice that allows this lower area below the impermeable layer of soil gravel to stay saturated. That creates an anoxic zone, it helps with treatment, so on and so forth. In times of high flow, this basin will fill up to a point and it will slow release. That's the flow attenuation, and it knocks out the peak flows from the higher storms. One thing to be very clear with in Tanglewood, this practice allows Tanglewood to meet the current standards for their permit only. So there's way more flow coming to Tanglewood right now than this will be able to treat. So there's emergency bypass here, which bypasses straight to the pipe and flows out to the brook. So at some point in time, what Sean's talking about, and we had a meeting, I don't know, 6 months ago maybe, where we talked about looking at this holistically, like Sean indicated,
Yeah, with the city too.
going further up, yep, we talked about, we met with the city as well, going further up into the drainage area and addressing where that flow comes from. So that's this area up here, as Julie pointed out originally. So also trying to tackle similar to what we're doing in Tanglewood, looking at other practices upstream where we can also capture and attenuate that flow and knock out those peak flows and then slowly release it after the storm was dissipated. That helps everybody downstream, including Tanglewood. And that's sort of the approach that the town and the city and V-Trans are looking at right now for this whole area. But this is the first step. This happened to be where it started for, just because of really the permit that you have with your development triggered starting this work first. Right or wrong, that's how the state is setting up these. They're asking these permits to be done before MS4 permits are met. So it's kind of a little bit backwards, but that's why we started here. If anybody's wondering why we started at the bottom. So.
Okay, so now we're gonna talk about funding. So the MS4, they gave us the grant, so they're gonna to pay mostly for the construction, and we're gonna local match with the stormwater utility that you guys pay, $50. So we're gonna cover that, the construction. The HOA is gonna, with the money you raise, we're gonna use for the ditching. So you need to clean out and improve all that ditching in the Tanglewood. So the water actually go to the new wetland. The project is not gonna include the ditching. You guys need to do that. That's the main point. Channeling to the water?
Not culverts. There's some, I've seen some that are, and you can poke in at any time. Some of them I've seen even on their own, some that were dug to divert the water. Yeah. 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 Yeah, so that's essentially, yeah, and that's also part of might be the reason, I don't know which house you are. To the sash? Yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
What we've been talking about, Angelo, is the connection to the pond is at the southwest end of the development. So with the money that we have, we're going to do as much as we can to make that connection, but it will be focused on the lower end where all the water is accumulating from the other end of the development. So don't know exactly how far the money is going to go, but the critical thing we're trying to accomplish is connecting it to the pond so that it's not pooling around Michelle's house, your house, several other houses in that area, and hopefully we'll get something.
And also there's a part of the, on the sash, which it might be one of your homes, that the other ditch clearly breaks over. It turns in.
Yeah.
There was a berm
Yeah,
apparently created when, I don't know, V-Trans says it was there, it was built when the development was put in. I don't really know.
They built the sash in the 60s, and then the Tanglewood was in the 80s. So that all covers is not working right now. They need to fix that in the 25, 26. So hopefully it does.
and also the berm.
Live through until V-Trans gets to it.
Yes.
And my understanding is that V-Trans had an agreement for the water to run into the Tanglewood area before it was Tanglewood.
Yes.
And the berm was part of the development bill, but before that, it was just a field.
Right.
Yeah, kind of the boundary of the berm, I guess,
Yeah.
failed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
failed.
so that's why, or you can see clearly where the kind of plants and overgrowth goes over the fence. Right against the,
It's on the north side.
Actually, what is the yellow is
yeah,
showing
right there.
Yeah,
You can see the yellow and red.
Yeah.
Line.
Yeah, so it goes along the sash,
Mhm.
starting at that
Yeah.
yellow line, and then goes all the way down.
Yeah. Essentially, the berm boundary isn't doing it, so it's starting to cross
Mhm.
over to the backyards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we're getting more water there.
Absolutely.
yeah.
70 years,
Yes.
even so 60 years ago.
Yeah.
So the idea is that the HOA fix all that ditch because we cannot, as a town, work in because it's private roads, so we cannot do it there. But you try to ditch and fix all the areas so the water can go to the wetland and
65,000 to do this, that we're talking about close to. I don't know how fast that's gonna go. So just like the program for St. Albans is a multi-piece program, it's gonna have to be that for the association as well. It's gonna take multiple steps, and it'll be gated by the money, honestly, how much money we're willing to put into a reserve to do each of the pieces. And it will be multi-year. I don't see any other way that we can. We talked about possible
there is
grants.
possible grants for the HOA. So I post all of that in the website. I don't know if you saw the,
Yeah, and actually, thanks for that segue. Anybody, bridge break here? Because we're gonna need help doing the grants. So we either get help or we have help. We don't know which it is, but we're gonna go for the grants to accelerate it as much as we possibly can.
I think a portion of this water that coming into Tanglewood is coming from those culverts, which one is bigger than the other one in turn.
Yeah.
It's small. I would say if they fix that issue, that would probably alleviate a lot of this money that we don't have to spend because it's gonna go back across where it belongs.
I don't know what the trans detailed plans are on that.
exactly, and we don't know yet.
Yes,
It's,
it's a big point of frustration.
mhm.
That's an engineering fault. Then by putting that in half-ass.
I would say a majority of this is.
Yes,
Yeah.
but the only,
Is, I don't know. I know these people have all tried to do it. You've heard about the roundabout, we'll talk about that more later. But I asked the question, when can we anticipate that happening? Because that could have drainage implications for us. And they said, at first they wouldn't say, and then I said 10 years. Well, maybe 15, maybe 20. This is not an answer. This is just not an answer. So that's what we're dealing with. Anything that's V-Trans stamped, that's going to be a challenge to keep pushing them to do the right thing. And that's what we have to do.
I can't speak for them, but they're very aware of that.
yes, they know.
Yes, we are
We're-
not quiet about
We've been trying to
Yeah.
tell them, look,
Yeah.
look. So they know.
Yeah.
I apologize if this comes off negative, but I've been in the neighborhood for over 20 years.
Mhm.
And we've been dealing with this with the town for
Yeah.
over 20 years. What is the guarantee on the funding? Because we've been told over and over and over again, the town is gonna pay.
Oh, we're paying for this,
Oh,
for
we're
the
paying.
pond part. I'll,
We just-
yeah,
Ah,
I'll send you an email tomorrow. Yeah,
the-
yeah,
for-
for the pond,
For the
for
pond.
the pond, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Mhm.
However,
Yeah,
it's, oh, well, that was a different body.
Yeah.
Party.
yeah,
So
no,
now we have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
This all sounds great,
yeah, oh,
and
yeah,
I really hope it happens.
Yeah.
But I have to be.
I don't-
skeptical.
I don't blame you. I've also heard this many times.
Yeah.
And so I don't blame you. I don't blame you one bit. Yeah,
In that neighborhood.
yeah, yeah,
See,
Yeah.
everything was all set, and he said, oh, you didn't do it in time, so you lost a grant.
yeah.
So it's like, okay.
You know,
Well,
so-
I don't blame you. Yeah, yeah, Yeah.
We saved this $65,000
mhm,
as homeowners.
Yeah.
We're not
Yes.
rich, right?
Yeah.
Like, it comes out of our pocket.
Yeah.
And to talk about spending that money on something else, when this project isn't done,
Mhm.
is a non-starter for me.
Yeah.
Let me, please, okay, is a non-starter, because what happens if the project doesn't happen? Something happens, the town doesn't do it.
Mhm.
We're out $65,000 on a pond that was supposed to be done, and then it was never done. So that's why I'm saying, like, I would
I
love to see it. in
Yeah.
writing.
Yeah,
It's guaranteed the town is gonna pay.
we should have it out to bid within the next month or so.
Yeah.
We're slated to have the project done by the end of the summer, as long as we
That's
finish
what
up
I
our
want to
last couple
explain
easements.
in the coming, this. Exactly.
That's not the rates to us as a group. Well, I have indicated, and I appreciate that. It's not a dime is gonna be spent, that the project has to be done first, like $0 balance to the association. and-
Yeah, for the pond project.
Yeah.
We can't
Yeah.
begin connecting to something that doesn't exist,
Exactly.
so it's not happening.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you for that.
To talk
So,
about.
Yeah, I just want to be clear on two things. One, to your point about the pond and your comments about the pond. So the pond, the construction of the pond isn't going to solve the upstream problem. I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
So all that water, until that upstream work is done, all that water is still going to be there. So I just want to be clear about that, that's not going to, it's not going to solve that. The pond addresses your permit issue that you currently have right now. So I just want to make that clear.
That's understood, but thank you for
Yeah.
making sure.
It's just one more point. I want to talk about Brycebrook a little bit if I can.
Sure.
Can you go back to the overall, Julie?
This one,
Right here. So I think the comment, and I apologize, the gentleman in the back here was referring to flow coming across roughly up here. So this is top, I'll call it the top of Tanglewood. This is roughly where the Brycebrook Road comes
actually, I showed it.
perpendicular to
That one,
the
yeah.
sash. Yes, where that red arrow is from the north
Mhm.
coming, pointing towards the sash, okay? So we have a lot of flow, I say we, you,
You're part of
I'm part of this, I know, I actually live right over there, so I am. So anyway, there's a lot of flow that comes this way. And the Brycebrook comes along through here and goes out this way. But there's a tremendous amount of flow that comes through here. And there's a ditch right here that's on the backside of Brycebrook that runs in a southerly direction. And at one point, when this development wasn't here, this used to cross straight over, and this is where it used to come over to Brycebrook, or sorry, from Brycebrook. This still goes this way, and there's a tremendous amount of flow, like I said. There's a connector culvert from this ditch that goes into Brycebrook. From there, it flows through Brycebrook, and it goes to another culvert that goes out this way. This does two things. It splits and a little bit goes this way back to the sash above where Tanglewood's having problems. Part of it goes this way towards Brycebrook, and a majority of it dumps right onto Satec. And Satec is having problems with this too. They've been washed out a number of times, and flow that comes across, basically right through the development. So there's a project potential here at Brycebrook to help address some of those issues as well, which would also be capturing somewhat of a redirection of flow, attenuation, so that some of that flow is peeled off. There's also been discussions, and this is way further beyond these east and west basins, but trying to manage this flow that comes this way and comes south from Brycebrook. So you're right that that's all there. It's all still going to be there. But you know, this area is a big part of what we see as the issue for Tanglewood, but also further south on the Sash, which is still having problems.
So with us, sir, this retention pond that we're talking about, you mentioned that has an emergency bypass.
Yeah,
What's the trigger for that emergency bypass?
elevation.
What's that?
Elevation. So if you go down a couple, Julie, one more.
This one?
Yeah, this one right here. This is sort of a skewed section based on vertical, elevated vertical dimensions. But basically, if you can see, these banks, these dashed lines here are the proposed grades of the basin. And the elevation of the emergency bypass is this elevation right here. So basically from the bottom of what you would see is the bottom of the basin to this elevation is volume. At that point, the overflow is triggered and it goes into, if you go up to Julie. One more. This outlet right here, so you can see there's a hatching, it's kind of hard to see if you guys want to come and take a look, we can talk through this too, but there's a spillway here that goes into a basin, as well as the outlet from the structure, that would take the flow generally from the practice, and this is directed out, down to the road.
Okay, so essentially, this might be a worse thing for us then, it's pooling water there, backing everything up until it hits that certain elevation and then draining.
So if the only
Essentially creating the dam downstream.
during a peak event, if you go down, Julia, sorry, two more again. So your inlets, I don't quite see them here. But no, you can go back up. That one you just had, yep. I believe the inlets are up around this area. So you've got some freeboard within the practice. And then backing up, we've looked at surcharging, and surcharging happens basically in the inlets to the practice, but it kind of backs up in those swales. And that's pretty much it.
Plus to another part of the agreement, the MOU and stuff that we're working through, is that we're gonna maintain it. So like right now, it's underperforming across the board. But for us to maintain it, it's gonna help, you know.
So I
immediately
just want to talk to your point a little bit more, talk about volumes, and this is, I don't, off the top of my head, I don't have specific, volumes, but I can tell you that there's an elevation in here which we call CPV, which is channel protection volume, and that's just under a 3-inch storm. That volume right there is just under a 3-inch storm, and that's entirely contained within the gravel wetland, below where the inlets come into the practice. That's a big storm. That's a very big storm. So there's volume here. You have attenuation. You have volume. Now we can't control. There's a limit to what you can control for storms. But this is a large amount that you can capture in this practice.
Is that what the bypass is actually mechanical?
It's passive. So it's passive. So fills up, spills over. Passive. There's no mechanical part about this.
Sorry, so, yes, schedule. As we talked about, just we need to work a little bit about some agreements with the few houses we need to talk, but it's mostly is almost done with that. We need to talk with the town attorney. And we hope that we start to get all that ready and start the bid in June or July to start for the construction of this wetland. So hopefully we have finger crossed, we're going to have all that agreement in place. As Sean was talking about, we also want to maintain the wetland and the HOA mowing and all the stuff, but mostly as we wanna maintain and operate the wetland. So that's another thing. That's it, I think. Any questions?
Back to maintenance part, so that folks understand more of the breakdown.
Yes,
We're gonna be responsible for mowing and, the basic stuff on the outside of the pond. The pond itself is beyond our capabilities. we have an understanding with the town, and Sean, would you put this in your email too, please?
Yes.
Yeah, well, it'll certainly be in the
Yeah.
MOU. for
Yeah.
the- All this will be in the MOU.
And the agreement all going,
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
We need,
So as long as you are, which is scheduled mowing
Hmm.
on a regular basis during grass season, we're good.
That's a good segue to or point. So during the construction, I mean, you're gonna see a lot of each other if you live on the pond. It's overgrown to the point of borderline, mini forest.
It's not gonna look-
It's not. It's gonna be, a lot of things are gonna be cleared out.
All of it.
All of it.
All of
Yeah, so it's gonna be wide open, like a stormwater retention pond typically is. So, and then afterwards, then we basically get to start again to maintain it. That's gonna be again part of the agreement. I know I've only been here for a year. Actually, it was my year anniversary yesterday. But please don't hold me to my past leadership or anything like that. I've heard a lot of it. I know more about this than probably I care to. But for me personally, with my background in these types of roles, stormwater is it's not sexy or anything like that, but it's a huge part of what I consider infrastructure. In the future of the town, city, whatever locality, I think stormwater is a very important thing. We're gonna grow this way, that way, the other way, but stormwater is gonna be there regardless of direction. So in terms of direction, we're basically trying to get the stormwater going the right way. So I've heard it all. I appreciate
just consider-
I grew up with a wet basement myself. It's not fun, but I can tell you that we're actually technically setting precedent with this project here. The first 6-7 months that I was here, we couldn't get through the funding part. With the select board, it was how do we figure out a cost sharing equation, all this, that, and the other. I kind of looked at the project list and saw the money, and this is at least one of the top 3 most expensive projects. And so I'm looking at it. I go, guys, let's just not do that. If we have the money, we get the grant. If we get a grant, we do the project. We got the grant, yeah. Yeah, we got a grant for this in Clyde Allen. Separate grants, but, and even for me, it was like, all right, well, somebody sells their home and somebody else comes in, like they weren't a part of that. So for me, I thought this was the quickest, dare I say quick is a bad word to use for this, in this example, but, it should be done by,
It depends on contractor schedules.
yeah, I probably shouldn't give it
So-
time.
Yeah, it's gonna be a hard timeline. We bid a lot of projects this year. Contractors are still looking for work at the end of this year. Even if we bid it in July, we may not see somebody out there until end of August, early September. Based on our typical construction season, they probably have a good 2 months. Maybe they're lucky they get into early December, but they're gonna have to shut down and come back in the spring to finish up. I would say that the I'll call it the skeleton. So of the practice would be it would be operational, but there may be a couple components that need to be finished in the spring. Certainly any restoration, finalized restoration would need to be done. There's a portion of the outfall that we're not replacing, we're actually slip lining. My guess is, depending on schedules, that may not be done until the spring. That's not necessarily a critical path to do that, to have the practice active, but I don't think there's any guarantee that it's gonna be done this year.
So that would bump us back.
Yes,
Awesome.
correct.
That's probably even likely because of
Yes.
construction season here.
Even-
That's
even
probably
with-
likely.
Even with timing, even if we were
Yeah.
to finish this job this year, it would probably be December.
Okay, so I've been to a few of these meetings. I think the other thing the town agreed to do was to fence this in properly,
Yes,
so that when we're responsible for mowing, we have our clear boundaries, and we also don't have liability.
Yeah, we have to. Yeah.
That's huge liability.
Yeah.
It's not.
Essentially like a pool.
It has to be. fenced
Yeah.
in.
it needs to be hands.
Yeah, so we'll take
Yeah.
that, so they.
You're right. exactly.
Yes, it's good.
There's gonna be a lot of heavy traffic down there, trucks.
From Potter Avenue for the most part, right? Really, the easement is that long.
Yeah, well, there's two, there's an access from Potter. Yep,
This one,
yeah, so there's an access here. This way. Okay. There also, may need to be access from either one of these two. Actually, we have an easement through here. And this may be an access point as well. For construction, it's gonna be, have to be accessed from both sides mostly. You know, we are trying to, we're trying to utilize as much of the existing footprint as we can. Obviously, we've got to excavate a little bit deeper, but we're trying to stay within that footprint. To answer your question, it does expand. It is, as I mentioned earlier, it is a bit larger in overall footprint than the original.
Okay, so, and I'm sorry, I jumped into this, my name's Dan Burleson, I'm actually on Potter Avenue.
Okay.
And my basement's flooding as much as just about anybody's, and so are both my neighbors on both sides of me. My backyard is facing the retention pond.
So you want this portion of Potter or this portion?
Probably.
Probably this portion, yeah.
Yes, I'm on the west side of the retention pond,
Over
right there, yeah.
Okay.
And there used to be a ditch. And a culvert.
Oh,
running
it goes
across.
up towards the
Yeah.
thatch.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and over the years, that ditch is completely now overgrown.
Yes.
My bigger concern now is if the retention pond gets bigger, because the ditch, I believe, like runs right on the backside of that retention pond.
You're talking about this right here.
Yes, yeah,
So from here down along the side,
think
that's,
it's slow.
yep, that's staying. There's
Well, there-
that
It
ditch.
shouldn't
that-
flow it.
there is no ditch there.
No, but it's very wet. I know,
Yeah, it's
you
just
don't walk back
overgrown,
there.
yeah, it's just overgrown.
Yeah.
So this isn't really, this isn't changing. This is not coming into the practice from this side.
So will there be any positive effect for
This-
Potter?
This is, there's not really, anything from Potter is not coming into this practice.
Right, it goes into the ditch on the backside of that
Here,
retention
down
pond,
this way.
yes.
That's right.
And we won't go into.
Road.
And
Rub,
then it
rub.
goes down into the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this won't alleviate any of the water issues except for whatever overflows from Tanglewood down.
So part of the ditching element, not, I don't believe your ditching element for Tanglewood
Yeah, it's
HOA.
outside. Right.
Inside the right of way, we talked quite extensively with Public Works about, working on the ditches within the right of way. And I think what you're referring to is there's a lot of flow that comes down, within the Tanglewood right of way ditching system,
Yeah,
along the edge of the road here and goes straight this way. As opposed to turning the corner and coming this way. So part of this is to long-term capture this flow. There is ditching there,
Yes.
but I don't know if there was, it looks like there might have been a path there or
Looks like
something.
the road should be down straight.
A road, a connector,
They were connected.
yeah, yeah,
Drive up Potter's Ave.
yeah, and all the way around.
Yeah,
Right, and that's what it looks like.
All the way around it,
Yep,
yeah,
around the cul-de-sac.
yeah.
that's what it looks like, yeah.
So,
Locked it off. It was,
They unlikely made that.
They will,
Right.
made it a dead end.
yes, so
Yeah.
So that needs to be reworked so that that flow doesn't go that way, because what's happening is you can see this jumps and some of it goes this way and then it goes this way.
Yeah.
And then some of it does get around and come into here. But essentially for this to work, it'll still work. Essentially for this to alleviate this has to be connected around that one.
The ditches just aren't deep enough anymore.
They're-
After 20 years of sediment, the
Yeah.
ditches are getting
You're
shallower,
Yeah.
shallower.
Yeah.
So-
That is very much.
Are ditches just strictly privately owned? Is that what I'm hearing? Like all of the ditching is privately owned?
Not all of it,
Those are within the
but
right of.
right of way.
in the right
The
way.
ones adjacent to the road, I'm sorry, I don't want to
No,
make
no.
that turn, but those are in the right of way.
But the one on the back of my property that goes along
Yeah.
the retention, that's private property.
It's
And,
most likely, yeah.
and I don't know whether, so, and this is getting into sort of the original deeds and the construction of that wetland, there were some conveyances of property to the HOA relating to the existing stormwater practice. And I'm not really sure whether that ditching on your side of the practice was part of that conveyance. I don't really know. And I don't know whether
don't
that's
think so.
clear or not.
No.
I found the planning deeds that might answer that question, or do you have them on?
I mean, we've looked at them, but Dave Rue, who's the town attorney, is
Yeah.
going through all of that. I don't, at the end of the day, know whether that's helpful or not, other than maybe that's more of an HOA responsibility if it's a conveyance as part of the original stormwater practice, but I'm not really sure.
We're gonna have those answers hopefully in the next week or so. We're
Yeah.
meeting with Dave, and us. Yeah.
I would love to.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
a fun, probably the second meeting on that, but I'll certainly follow up with you, just because we got to work through a whole bunch of stuff with separate projects too, but, yeah, I'll just keep you updated throughout. So, trust me, I want to get this done. You'd be surprised. I won't say as much as you guys do, because you live there and I probably,
Yeah. me
but
too.
I'm ready to get this done. It's a lot.
We are
So, yeah, so,
Water actually from the other side of Potter Avenue comes across into a catch basin on my property and runs down into that ditch. So we're taking all that water.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
So you would have squishy ground too.
oh.
Oh, yes, it's.
Most
bushy. Yeah.
likely,
We walked last week
Yeah.
over there.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's development.
Yeah, it's that one ditch.
Uh-uh.
Oh, and getting clean, but I gotta
No,
talk
yeah.
to the property owners to see who. think
Um, Yeah.
So, can you just break it down for me real quick, either like 3 steps or 5 steps? Point to the map and say, this is step 1, that's hopefully happening in July, this is step 2, that will be after that, step 3, and just kind of show where the work is going to start and hopefully flow. Can you give us that little breakdown of maybe like 3 or 5 steps of where you're focusing first and then where it's going from there?
For us, it's pretty much concentrated right in the pond. So that's step one.
You're talking
Yeah.
about the whole watershed.
No,
Correct.
I mean,
You mean,
just
with-
give me your first 3 steps.
Just the Tanglewood?
If you're where.
so with
And
Tanglewood
With Tang-
specifically, I mean, it's
That would be great.
the pond.
Yeah, just the
The
pond. Yeah,
I mean, that's step 1
That's-
through. all
that's,
of
that's all our steps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on step 1.
It's a
and
step,
And also
yeah.
step A and Z.
So
And you hope to have the skeleton of that done by the end of this year.
Mhm.
that's
Yes.
right.
And I would say step 2 would be the ditching.
The ditch.
To help the flow.
To help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're on Potter as well.
No, I'm 3 Meadows.
Oh, okay.
I go, I have a lot of.
Mhm.
Yeah, that area is a feeder to the pond, so our 65, we're going to try to use that to get that feeder for flow.
Okay, and that was, okay, that was my other thing too. Okay, so you said the pond is your focus, but then you had mentioned the ditching that goes between Tanglewood and Meadowbrook.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the HOA's responsibility or the town?
That's the
HOA.
HOAs. Yeah, the state has, that's the part of the MS4 program. So that project, the pond is the MS4. So that's basically us looking at it holistically, saying, all right, the ditching is part of, like, we see it as all one connected thing. But in terms of funding and what we granted for, it's that, so.
So
it's-
then with all that construction that's happening around that pond, if you don't foresee any like cleanup and maybe like freshening out the ditch that Dan's talking about, that goes along the side because.
Well, we'll have to, there
Yeah.
is grading work that's gonna happen on the backside. We can,
So that's
I don't know that that's gonna solve all of the problem over there.
No, they're not freshening up that.
Yes. I don't even think it's a ditching. I've walked
It's
back
not
there
a
several
ditching,
times.
Yeah, we were there
yeah.
last week.
We
Yeah,
were, we
I
were.
don't- I don't think it's a
Did you
ditching.
walk back there with Bruce? Is that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very wet.
It is. It's
Yeah.
nice.
She had sandals on. so-
Yeah. That's why I'm feeling the. Someone else? Questions?
step one, who's responsible for hiring the last part of this?
The ditching part,
Yeah.
that'll be on you guys.
So we're.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to work with you guys.
Yeah, to help
kinda
you with
guide
that.
through it, but yeah.
Because it seemed to me.
So here's an option for you, is what we've done on past projects, not necessarily the same as this, but similar situations. The town's going out to competitively bid this project, and they're gonna have a contractor on site. So the HOA can speak with that contractor and say, hey, when this is done, before you demobilize, we have this scope of work that we want to do as well. And you won't have to pay for mobilization costs because they're already there.
Yep.
And you could, if they're willing, they could do the ditching for you. So
Yeah.
just keep that in mind. You could save a few bucks on it because they're already there.
Yeah, we can't put that in the RFP,
We
but that can be
cannot.
part of our conversation.
So
We expect to interface with all of you and also with the contractor with that in mind.
Mhm.
And because they will know the best way to connect.
Yeah.
So really.
Yeah, once we pick one, we'll absolutely involve you guys. and Hopefully we can help you out.
Who you put the RFQ out to?
it's a.
It's a public,
Publicly
it's wide open,
advertised.
yeah, it goes on the state bid website, it goes
Yeah.
everywhere, yeah. Yeah,
It's
I wanna know.
it's not a select process. It's just publicly.
It's meant to be the opposite of a select process,
Yeah.
which also hopefully drives prices down. So,
Yeah.
Sorry to ask this again, but can you explain the difference in the ditching? Because you said there's ditching that's right of way
Mhm.
versus ditching that's our responsibility.
That's just location on property.
Can you explain that though? I don't understand. So are you saying the ditches that go along the road are not our responsibility, they're the town's?
Mm,
And then,
I
so
don't-
I'm,
I don't
that's
know.
what I'm trying to understand is what's going.
As I understand for David, because he is the DPW, that road is private. So we are not gonna, yeah, it's
Yeah,
private. So we cannot clean that ditch. If we was from the town road, we need to ditch all the area.
So basically, any of the ditches that go
Wow.
over across driveways and backyards and
Uh-huh.
lawns are all private.
Private,
Private. Okay.
Because there are no ditches going along the back.
exactly, because,
Right?
Mhm.
That's their-
Well, there's some ditching between
Yeah.
Meadowbrook and Tanglewood.
yes, there's some, but need to be in better shape.
Well, you know where we work, so you can reach out anytime and
Yes, it's gonna be on the website.
yeah.
I'm gonna
it's being
post it.
recorded too, so we'll post it.
Yeah, it's actually recording.
They start driving all that, we put down, tear it up, well, kind of report that.
Anything we damage, we will fix. Yeah. It's fine, yeah. It's fine, yeah, it'll be in the MOU, yeah. Yeah. No, we talked about this, yeah.
Seriously, like some of us have lived there for
Yeah.
30 years. and We have dealt with this for nearly 30 years.
Yeah.
For some of us, it's not a joke. Like we want to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I know we're joking about it, but right now it is. For such a long time.
Yeah, I understand. The reason I'm putting the mics over there, this is probably, yeah, is, I guess I just apologize for the past, approaches here. We have a lot of new leadership and stuff and, you don't know me, so you don't have to believe me, but, the fact that we're this far along the process this time, I'd like to think puts a little bit of weight into what I'm saying and what we're saying. This is a big, important thing. I've heard about it I feel like I've heard about it for 30 years. I mean, Jack Rubin fan was like, last time I was in the select board, I thought it was gonna be done, I got back on again, and well, we didn't do changes. Yeah, yeah, and a lot of it too, is you see, the development landscape is different than I'm used to. So it's, and the stormwater landscape is different, kind of catching up, the old stories.
what you need for a stormwater permit, and this was available. Oh, yeah. we put it in place.
You know, I do.
So we're just trying to take little baby steps and do it, but that we're doing.
But it's a $500,000 gains.
It's a
Yes.
That's a big one.
I think it's
Yeah.
important that we know that.
It's a big one.
No, and I have, like, I totally appreciate this, I appreciate the meeting to inform us, but I don't wanna make light of it and make jokes about it, because it is serious to some of us that have been doing this for 30 years. And then, you know, to be this close to the finish line, it's pretty exciting, but the reality
It's
is,
scary.
we've been burned, and
Yeah.
we've been burned for the last 30 years, so.
Yeah,
I mean, I appreciate everything you're
Yeah.
doing, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but
Yeah.
you
no,
have to understand the reservation, right?
I do, I do, yeah.
And wanting to see it in writing, right? Like
Yeah.
wanting to see that agreement, because it's always verbal. Yeah, we'll do
Yeah.
it. We have this grant, we'll do it. Well, they let the grant expire or
I haven't
whatever.
read the grants.
I haven't either.
I don't think we got, I don't know.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
15,000 to start with, I got it for.
Oh, wait,
Okay.
okay, now they have 459,000. We're not gonna throw
We
that.
should have done it.
Yeah.
Always cheaper. I'm just curious, and I'm not, I know you probably can't answer this. So I went to the meeting with the state, I mean, you know, regarding the roundabout,
Yeah.
lights, or all that stuff. And of course, some of that directly impacts our side, because, I mean, the complex is having a hard time with water issues and that, you know, water flows downhill, as we all know. And I know that project's a way off. But I'm hoping that some of this, you know, that'll be looked at really carefully when it comes to, I mean, we're gonna put all this work in. And then have them go out and dig out for a roundabout, find out, you know, we're in trouble again, isn't gonna make a whole lot of sense, so, because that's sort of been,
That's kind of the east-west basin project, where Leesburg, that's a part of it. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's that major section, basically, wow.
so that's kind of where they would start. Get
Yeah,
that.
that's where the wall out, I know some of the rest of the lot coming down, right? So, I mean, every meeting I've had, state, I didn't go to like the 19 one, with adults, I've been to the 8 for that with them. But they are very aware, we don't not let them hear about it every time. we talk about
Yeah,
it.
because they were talking about moving south,
Doesn't mean they're gonna do it.
you know,
All I can say is that.
I worked with the state for years, I know, yeah. They were talking about moving that south ramp further back. You know, so, no, I can't see what's gonna make a difference, that doesn't matter.
They're doing the right turn only this year.
What?
They're doing the right turn only. Like,
Yeah, but there's digging involved, I
Proposing.
guess, is what, where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
You know, if we're gonna do all this and find out in the end after they do all that.
Yeah,
You know, it's not, that's really, it's.
but I would rather not do it this week, so.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying. if y'all think it
I'm
all-
with it. 'Cause I talked to them, like, all right, we do this and figure this out, but they gave us the grant too. So like, they know what's within us. That's why we applied for the grant. It's like, hey, we're not waiting for 2026 to start that. The grant takes 6 months and then that means next year to study it and then next. So that's why we're doing it now. So it's a little bit bare minimum, show them that we're feeling like it's serious, so.
But it's kind of a serious step pushing this total solution ahead.
Mhm.
You know, if you don't have groundwork on the town side ready by the time the state actually starts making commitments. It's a real lifetime.
Yeah. And the flooding.
No.
The flooding basically kicked
Yeah.
everything else out. They had to, yes, longer. Priority.
So with this basin being enlarged or being redone, some of that sash runoff will get it.
Say that again?
Yes,
Yeah, I know, I realize you can't handle it all, that sash runoff, some of it will get into this.
Yeah.
yes,
Hopefully, yeah,
Which would help them then.
yes.
Then pouring out to them. I've
Plus,
seen that.
plus V-Trans need to fix the covers over there and also,
Right,
Yeah.
I realize.
I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but I do know, at least for the first time in a long time, we have every single person in the room. We're working with the city, we're with V-Trans, I know that's about to say the state too, but really across the board,
everybody. We've been in the same room on occasions to really like deal with this, look at this map. We're working with the city on, future potential project. Right?
Yeah, that one, yeah, the last one.
Yeah, because this pipe's what, 18?
That whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lower portion of the south.
Yeah, so like that's part of it too, where we could reestablish the burn, but then still have a smaller adequate forward there. So there's a whole lot, but we're actually working together. So yes, it'll take a while. I'm with you, it should have been done before or earlier, but it's also a pretty new concept, in general for, I'd say, the general public. So, we're all working, we're all with hands, playing the button. To try. So,
Yeah.
Any others? Okay.
I enjoy it.
I did not make arrangements for locking up when we're done, and you, somebody hanging around?
Yeah, I actually gotta do it.
Okay.
Hey, everybody, teacher, man, how to do it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Hopefully it's working out. No lag, but.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. And other visitors.
I can leave if you need to. I was just hoping to get.
I'm gonna leave it up to the group. We have a few interlopers. Do we want them to stay or ask them to leave? I personally think they ought to stay because Roland is. Yeah. I don't know, we're gonna go over our financial